Hey friends, welcome back. Let's talk about my year of reading in 2024 and also look ahead to 2025. I'm a big visual learner, so anytime that I can have a visual representation of anything, it helps me out a lot. And I love Storygraph for that reason. All of the graphs that you see is from that website. I do pay for the custom and plus versions, so that might be why some of my graphs look a little bit different than yours if you also use Storygraph. Let's get into it. When looking at my reading journal from this year, my goal was to read 75 books. I had a soft goal of 100, and I read 104 books this year in 2024, which is really exciting. Of these 104 books, 14% of them were very chunky, over 500 pages. 68% were between 300 and 499 pages, and then 17% were under 300 pages. So I like thick books, as you can tell. I read 94% fiction and 6% nonfiction, which I am curious of what that is like from last year. It's up. Last year, I only read 2% nonfiction, so, you know, we're doing better every year. My most read books were in the months of February and June at 13 books per month. My least read books, it makes sense, in July and August and December. In July, I was in Bali with my first hosted group trip, so I was just, you know, really focused on that and also fighting for my life. If you've seen my Bali vlog, then you know the story about how I almost died in Japan. But moving on, August, I was catching up from what I missed in July. You know, things were busy in August as well. And then this month in December, I usually focus more on content and end of the year, like wrapping up sort of things. So it makes sense. I feel like December is always a little bit less of a read month for me. The most pages I read also was in February and almost January. January was 5,592 and February was 5,623. My average star rating, which is really exciting, was 4.02. The vast majority of books I read this year were 4 stars, 39 of the 104. That's pretty good. My next highest rating category is 5-star, actually, which is 23 books. I read 23 5-star books this year. I feel like that's phenomenal. And I definitely am more focused on picking up books that I think I'm going to enjoy. So I think that that plays a huge factor into my enjoyment and how I rate things. I had 14 4.5-star books, 8 3.5, 11 3-star books, 5 2-star books, 1 1-star book, and then I did have 3 books that I'm not rating, either because it was a nonfiction or a poetry collection or it was a DNF. In terms of genres for all of these books, my most read is fantasy, which is very unsurprising. 34 books were considered fantasy. Next, we have fiction and romance tied at 17, which I feel like makes sense. Those are my top 3 genres. It's what I gravitate towards. I'm really happy to see fiction up there this year. I had a really good fiction reading year. Then next is horror, which is 12. I'm so excited that I bumped that number up. I think in the beginning and middle of the year, I had only read like 1 or 2 horrors, and now by the end of the year, I bumped it up, which is great. I love horror books. I read some really good ones this year. 2 horror books were in my top 10, actually. Next was thrillers, and I read 10 of those, 6 mysteries and 6 nonfiction, which again, I'm excited to have bumped up my nonfiction game a little bit, and I'm going to continue to do so. I did read 1 sci-fi and 1 historical. Now, moving into the plus features that Storygraph offers, you can like make your own graphs by using their tag feature, and I have 4 things that I really like to track. One is how my books are acquired. We have whether I purchased them, I already owned them before I picked them up, they were gifted to me, the library, Kindle Unlimited, or an ARC. An ARC is an advanced reader copy. Often you'll get it from a publisher before the release date to give reviews beforehand to like raise hype around the books, you know? So 38% were purchased. I just purchased them because I thought that I would enjoy them, or I wanted to have a copy of something, whatever. I purchased 38% of the books that I read this year, most of them being for video projects. 34% was my owned TBR, so I read 35 books that I had already previously owned, which is phenomenal. I would love to see that number go up even higher. 17 books were gifted to me this year that I read. I used the library for 5 books that I read this year, and then same with Kindle Unlimited. I read 5 via KU, and then I did read 1 ARC this year. My author stats, which is very exciting. I love this one every time. It's either a repeat author, I've read from them before, or a new to me author. 63% were new to me, and 37% were repeat authors. So that's exciting to see. I am trying out new authors, but I'm also going back to authors that I know that I love. Most of those are probably continuing continuing series, which is, you know, an exciting prospect. How were all of these stories consumed? If you know anything about me, I love an audiobook. My favorite way to consume a story is audio and physical, so tandem reading. I have trouble focusing a lot of the time, so it really helps me focus. That is the 83% audio physical section of this pie. Sometimes I'm sitting and listening while physically reading, or I am up doing chores and just listening to the book. Sometimes I will sit and just read it without audio as well. All of that is fair game in this slice of pie. Then 10% is Kindle audio, same exact thing, except I had the book on Kindle rather than a physical copy. 5% was just audiobook, and then 2% was just physical, no audiobook. The last little pie that we have is mood versus required. So this is a stat that I started doing this year that I really enjoy seeing. It sort of helps me visualize whether I am reading for enjoyment and mood reading or reading books that I am like required to read. But just because I'm required to read them doesn't mean I'm not choosing or excited to read them. For example, in the required section of this pie is also like all the books for my book club. All of the books for my book club, I am also really excited to read. So just because a book is required doesn't mean I also didn't in some way choose it. But 68% of my reading was for a video or required reads, and then 32% I just randomly mood read. No plans to read these books prior. I did not vlog them. I just read them because I wanted to read them. And I feel like that is a relatively okay split, because video projects, even though they can be a little bit tedious at times, are super fun for me to complete. And as long as I am able to mood read every now and then, like, I am a happy camper. So going back to my reading journal, a couple other like stats or goals that I had set for myself this year was 30,000 subscribers, and I actually just hit 31 the other day, which is really exciting. I'm super grateful to have this space and have you guys all here with me. It means the world every single day. Thank you so much. I also had a goal to have 300 patrons, and I just hit 325 actually over in the greenhouse. The greenhouse is my Patreon. I run a book club over there. We do reading sprints and readathons. I'm doing a year-long readathon in 2025 with them, and I'm really excited. I'm really happy with how the graphics turned out. I chose a mocha mousse background because that's Pantone's color of the year for 2025. I have reflected on the other goals that I set for myself in 2024 and made adjustments and moved on into goals and intentions for 2025. So let's chat about that. I just posted my setup for my 2025 reading journal. I'll link it down below because I am so happy with how it turned out. I'm actually obsessed with my journal this year. So I have some fun spreads like a priority reads page, monthly release trackers, and I played around with Dutch doors this year. I'm really excited about it. I love it. But goals and intentions for 2025. This first category is just like bookish and content goals and intentions. I again want to read 75 books. I feel like 75 is a number that I could be proud of and be okay with. I don't want to read less than that, but I also understand that 100 books per year is a lot for me, especially if I want to prioritize a couple other things this year as well. So I do have a soft goal of 100, but I would be happy with 75 is how I feel. We'll see if my competitive nature lets me read less than 100 though, to be honest. Subscriber count, I mean, I would love to hit 40,000. I feel like that's a reasonable goal. That would be awesome. I would love that. That would be so cool. It'd be super cool if I could hit 400 patrons this next year in 2025. I think I am going to continue doing seasonal TBR videos. Previously, like for the last 4 years, I've done monthly TBR videos with my Spin the Bottle TBR game, which I have loved. I still love my Spin the Bottle TBR. I still plan on playing it, but I do think I'm going to do seasonal instead of monthly, or bi-monthly or something like that. You know, I don't want to do monthly anymore because I think it has restricted me to the point of making things sometimes a little less enjoyable. And the point of all of this is to enjoy reading, is to enjoy the process. And I'm going to trial this for at least the first half of the year and just see how it feels. If I feel a little too unstructured, I'll go back to monthly, but I have a feeling that I will enjoy the freedom. I want to continue to read down my physical TBR. I want to make some video series for it. I have a jar that I pull from every single month from recommendations from my physical TBR from my patrons. So if you want to add your suggestions to that jar, go ahead and check out my Patreon so that you can contribute to a potential video series in the future. I want to continue to use my library more. I want to continue to finish series, and most importantly, I want to slow down. I want to enjoy the process of creating. I want to enjoy the process of learning and reading, romanticize filming, romanticize life, because I 100% this year, 2024, like literally flew by. I feel like I just made this video like 2 months ago talking about my goals for 2024. It's actually kind of crazy to me how fast this year went by. And I'm not like being dramatic, or I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, but it was a rude awakening when I realized that it was December. And I feel like no year should fly by as fast as this one did. So I want to do what I can to slow life down a little bit. A couple like creative and personal goals that I have. I probably won't go through every single one that I have on here, but I want to continue to exercise. We being Caleb and I, my husband, if you don't know Caleb, you should know Caleb. We have been exercising more. We have a home gym now that we have set up in this last half of the year. We have like a barbell and weights and everything, and we're both so excited about it. We both love weightlifting. So we want to continue that journey and, you know, do it for ourselves, do it for our mental and physical health. I want to continue to try more exercise classes. I tried Pilates this year. I only took one class, but I did like it. So I would be excited to continue to try different classes. It's just expensive, guys. It's just expensive. So I gotta like ration, you know? Caleb yesterday was talking about how he wants to like hyperfixate on cooking and like learn new techniques and learn new recipes and things like that. And I pulled out my journal. I was like, read the second bullet point, because I literally wrote down expanding meals and try new recipes, which was really exciting. And I am all for him hyperfixating on cooking. I love that. I will be a phenomenal sous chef and taste tester. Don't you worry. I want to journal more. I just think that having a designated time to sit down and write what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, what is going on that day, is really good for my mental health. And I want to make sure that I have time to do that more. In my monthly spread, I did make some space to do like a grateful log every single day, which I think is really exciting, but I also want to journal on top of that as well. I want to start writing more, whether it be poetry or on my work in progress. Speaking of work in progress, I want to try to finish a first draft. I don't know how much I'll talk about like writing or anything on my channel, because writing is very like personal and like scary for me, but I do want to work on it. Less TV. Please God, less TV. We as a couple like don't even watch TV that much, but we do watch a little bit every day, and I think that we should have nights where we don't even turn it on. Read right before bed. We want to have a better nighttime routine. I want to do more creative things like pottery, painting, and gaming. All things that I really love. All things that I really aspire to be better at. So then we have like social and financial. There's some debt that we want to pay off. We want to plan a big trip, plan a couple small weekend trips. And the last thing I have is literally just life moves fast, enjoy the time spent. Which goes back to, you know, slowing down and going back to what my favorite book of this year was. I just posted my top 10 books of 2024, so I will link that down below too. But my best book of this year is very much reminiscent of what sort of attitude and lifestyle I want to try to adopt in 2025 and see how that goes. So I think that's really it. I'm really excited for 2025. I love a new year. I love a fresh start. I love a new reading journal. I'm really excited for my 25 books that I plan on reading in 2025. I am just hopeful. I'm excited. I just love a new year. And this is the last video of 2024. So I will see you guys in the new year. Thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. Let me know down below what some of your goals are for next year. Or if you don't know what else to say, then leave me the star emoji. And while you're down there, please do subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support. And of course, be kind to one another and happy reading. See you guys soon. Bye.